come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Let us pray. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, you have called us, claimed us, sustained us, and challenged us to be about your work in this place of sacred trust. We give you thanks. We give you thanks for the bright warmth of this day and for refreshing and gathering us. Now put us to work. Place into our hands the tools for building up your kingdom on earth. Give us wisdom and discernment for this day and the many more to come, in which we hear your people cry out for justice. Be not far from us. Place hope where we can see it, and restoration in our grasp. If even for a fleeting moment we feel the flutter of feathers as you alight on your people, let us leave here telling about the new thing that you are about to do through us. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
The chaplain for today is Reverend Melissa Pullman from Central Lutheran Church, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 88th Session 2014, 67th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Thursday, March 6, 2014.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Reports of standing divisions and committees. A copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File 2480.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 2516.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 2567.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The Chief Clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 2855 through 2950.
First reading, House Files 2855 through 2950. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate File 1952, an act relating to state government. Signed, Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate files.
Introduction and first reading of Senate File 1952, an act relating to state government. The bill is being referred to the Committee on State Government Finance and Veterans Affairs.
Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 1455. The clerk will report the bill.
House File 1455, number 1 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to local government.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Brynaert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, House File 1455 deals with Blue Earth County Library governance. The bill proposes special law providing for the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners to be the authority over the county library system, except for designated policy areas. The Library Board has delegated certain administrative functions, personnel, budgeting, etc., to the County Board and administration, and would like the County Board to be responsible for these designated functions. This makes the Blue Earth County Library Board advisory to the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners. The special law is supported by both the County Board of Commissioners and the Library Board and was pursued at their request. While General Law, Chapter 134, provides for libraries to have authority over their own operations, there is precedent for this change in 1981 legislation governing Hennepin County's Library Board and in 2005 for Washington County. I ask for your support and would be happy to answer any questions.
There are no amendments. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
House File 1455.
Third reading. Discussion. The member from Isanti, Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Representative Brynaert. Could you just quickly, and I'm asking because I served myself for 6 years on the Library Board, East Central Regional Library Board, can you give a little background on what the current structure is in this county right now? Are they part of a regional library group, or what's the current governance structure for this county library right now?
Representative Brynaert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. No, Representative Doubt, they're not part of a regional library. The county does run the library system. It is a county library, and they have 2 branches in the area, but they're all part of the county library system.
Any further discussion to the bill? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 119 ayes and 6 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 1986. The clerk will report the bill.
House File 1986, number 2 on the calendar for today, an act relating to the legislature.
I recognize the author, Representative Winkler from Hennepin County, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, House File 1986 undoes something that we did last year and shouldn't have done. Last session, as you might remember, members, we passed a comprehensive campaign finance reform bill with overwhelming bipartisan support. Among other things, the bill contained provisions recommended by the Campaign Finance Board to better regulate our election system and to provide better disclosure of campaign funds. The bill contained a number of provisions related to disclosure, providing for civil penalties for various actions, penalties for false statements about what you include in a report. It raised the limits of what candidates can raise and spend in Minnesota to adjust them to actually something less than inflation from when they were originally passed. It provided for an involuntary dismissal of a fund that was out of date and had not reported, and it contained a number of provisions that would make Minnesota's corporate campaign finance disclosure laws consistent with First Amendment jurisprudence coming out of the 8th Circuit. So, by and large, what the bill did last year, members, was to increase transparency, increase disclosure of campaign funds, and to raise the amount of money that are flowing into our campaigns in an effort to reduce the amount of money that is going through third parties, which candidates cannot control. Unfortunately, in order to do all of that good work, the Senate insisted that we pass a provision brought forward by Senator Senja. And that provision specified that members of the legislature are allowed to take free meals from lobbyists and free meals from people trying to influence legislation, so long as the entire legislature is invited to do so. And what we have seen already, members, is these invitations come around from interest groups who have an agenda at the Capitol. They'd love to have us come and eat their free food, talk to us about their issue, not because they want to influence one member or one particular vote, but because they want their agenda on our minds as we convene and debate the issues. So this has already started to change a little bit of the way things are done around here. And I think it is important that we take action this session to eliminate that loophole that we opened up and turn things around in the other direction. So I would ask for your support, members. I understand there's an amendment. We can talk about that. But, you know, there's this argument that somehow the legislature would be a nicer place if lobbyists were allowed to buy us all food and drinks. And I have to say that it isn't the time or it isn't the money that causes many people to not go to the receptions. It's often the time. The $5 or $10, I hope, is not a barrier for any of us from getting to know each other across party lines or within our own party. I think the issue is the time that the legislature now demands and the way that this culture has changed to become more partisan and more based on gridlock politics. None of that, I don't think, will change if we somehow close this loophole that we opened up last session. So, members, I would urge your support and passage for House File 1986.
It is my understanding that there are no amendments to the bill. There being no amendments offered to the bill, the clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File 1986.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. The member from Hennepin, Representative Hillstrom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Members, over 20 years ago, it was legal for corporations and lobbyists to throw lavish parties for legislators. And for years, it was common practice for extremely wealthy lobbyists and executives to curry favor with public officials during these parties. 20 years ago, the legislature passed a law banning those parties. Last year, in the last nights of session, the legislature undid that ban and once again opened that door for these corporations and their lobbyists to spend unlimited amounts of money wining and dining legislators and their staff, as long as they invite the entire legislature. My problem with allowing these corporate lobbyists to spend gobs of money entertaining legislators is that legal aid attorneys, neighborhood justice volunteers, Head Start families can't get the same access, nor can regular Minnesotans. What the legislature did last year in opening that law was wrong. The problem with passing bad laws is that it's hard to undo those provisions. It's good for this body to once again ban those parties. But the other body must do it as well in order to actually change the law. I encourage you to once again vote to ban these lavish parties and these receptions. I encourage you to vote yes on the bill.
Discussion to the bill. The member from Hennepin, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Winkler, I am glad that you brought this forward. I think this is a good measure for us to do in this unsession. We're going to be batting 1,000 here. Last week, getting rid of the bad taxes from the 2013 session, and now with this piece, bad policy for lawmakers across the state. So I would encourage members to vote green as well.
Further discussion. The member from Hennepin, Representative Simon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I want to thank Representative Winkler for bringing this forward. I also want to thank the members of the Elections Committee. In our committee, we acted on this on the first day of session. We thought it was very important to correct what all of us on the committee regarded as a mistake from last year. And I think one of the reasons was the process, members. There was no hearing whatsoever on this bill in the House. I don't think there was at all in the Senate as well. It really was sort of snuck in the middle of the night, and we voted on it on the last day of session. I think Representative Winkler covered all the good things that were in the bill last year, but I think we always have to be mindful here about an appearance problem. We can't be obsessive about that. Obviously, there are people who aren't going to like elected officials no matter what, who won't want their kids to grow up to be us. And there's no convincing those folks. But I think certainly at the margins, and certainly when it comes to what we can or can't get by way of favors or gifts or meals, I think the appearances do matter. And it's important that we make sure that the public has the impression that we're acting in the public's business. I think about it sometimes in terms of what we would think if in our co-equal branch of government, in the judiciary, what would we think if any of us had a case before a judge and someone said, well, if you invite all the judges and give them a week's notice, it's okay to have the judge hearing your case come to a particular event and take food and drink from a party that is in front of them. I think all of us would kind of recoil in horror. So I just think we have to be wary of appearances. I know there's no one in this room who voted for that bill last year who meant for any bad outcome or who was looking to put their hand out to get any special favors. I know that, Republican or Democrat alike. But I think this is one small step that we can take to make sure the public has added confidence in all of us. Thank you.
Discussion to the bill. The member from Waseca, Representative Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's Wabasha, Madam Speaker. But, you know, W's, they all run together after a while. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and members. Thank you, Representative Winkler, for bringing this bill. I did sign on. I think it's the right thing to do. This speaks on behalf of what the people of Minnesota would like to see. They would like to see legislators become accountable to the people rather than the unions, the PACs, and the other groups coming here to the legislature in order to try to influence them. And, you know, I found it interesting, Representative Winkler, let's take responsibility at the same time for this policy. The Democrats are in control of this body. They were last year. It's not a particular senator's fault. That's the other body over there. You guys run this place over here. This was an ugly ward on that bill I did see last year, and a good number of us took note and we had that discussion. So I would appreciate it if the majority would, instead of pointing fingers, take responsibility while we do the right thing for the people of Minnesota. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Pope, Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Speaker. I wasn't going to rise and speak on this bill. I support it, but as Representative Simon was talking about the path that this bill took last year to become law, last night's session shoved into a bill, it seemed to me an awful lot like the way the Senate office building got put into effect in at least some legislation last year. And it seems like some of those things seem to happen around here, and some of those we try to undo. Thank you.
Discussion to the bill. The member from Hennepin, Representative Earhart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Representative Winkler, he will.
He will. Representative Earhart.
Madam Speaker and Representative Winkler, what is the effective date of this
Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As there is no separate effective date in the bill, it will be effective as of August 1st. And Representative Earhart, if you'd like to make it effective immediately, perhaps in our negotiations with the Senate we could accomplish that.
Representative Earhart.
Well, Madam Chair and Representative Winkler, I am concerned about all of the organizations out there have done some planning, bought food and all that sort of stuff, and I want to let them down easily, although righteously, and so therefore I think your effective date is fine. Thank you.
Discussion to the bill. The member from Isanti, Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I look at this, I believe the author just said the effective date was August 1st. The bill that I have in front of me shows the day following final enactment.
Would you like Representative Winkler to yield?
He can just give me a nod of the head if I'm correct on that. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Also, if he would yield for a question.
He will yield. Representative Dowd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Winkler, could you just let us know what the status of a Senate companion to this bill is, or if you know whether this bill will be traveling through the Senate? Do you have some sort of agreement with the Senate leadership that they agree to also pass this bill? Answers to any of those questions would be great.
Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Dowd, you know to hit me where it really hurts when you ask about agreements with Senate leadership right now. But this has been introduced in the Senate. I don't know if it will move through their committee process, but it only needs to pass through one body in order to be in a conference report. Representative Dowd.
Discussion. Seeing no further discussion to the bill, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 123 ayes and 3 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 894. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File 894, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to health.
The member from Rock, Representative Schomacker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Senate File 894 is a Minnesota Department of Health federal conformity bill for nursing homes in order to bring them up to date. 6 years ago, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services conducted a study of nursing home residents and their needs to identify resources needed to fulfill those needs and services. One of the results of that study was a 4th-generation resource utilization guide. In the 2011 Minnesota session, we conformed with the new resource utilization guide, but kept the 3rd version of that in statute during transition. Transition's over, members, and so we're able to take out number 3.
Members, will you take your conversations off the House floor into the alcoves of the retiring room so that members can hear the speaker? Representative Schomacker.
I'd ask you to vote green.
There are no amendments. The clerk will give the bill its 3rd reading.
3rd reading, Senate File 894.
3rd reading. Discussion to the bill. Seeing no discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 126 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions on your desk and online. at the House desk and online. If there are no objections, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail.
Murphy E. moves that House File 1938, now on the General Register, be re-referred to the Committee on State Government Finance and Veterans Affairs.
The member from Ramsey, Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is an Atkins bill. It needs to go back to Representative Murphy M's committee for a little more work, and I'd ask for your support.
All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. Motion prevails.
Freiberg moving that House File 1621 be recalled from the Committee on Labor, Workplace, and Regulated Industries and re-referred to the Committee on Governmental Operations.
The member from Blue Earth, Representative Brynaert. I'm sorry. Apparently I need bifocals and hearing assistance. Representative Freiberg.
You can have that one.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill relates to training requirements for lifeguards at public beaches. Its connection to health is somewhat tenuous. I've spoken to the chairs of both committees, and they are okay with this bill being moved to hasten its advancement.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
Abler moves that House File 2832 be recalled from the Committee on Health and Human Services Finance and re-referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services Policy.
The member from Anoka, Representative Abler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This bill actually has the potential to revolutionize how we do our community service settings for people who are on disabilities by creating a collaborative work with the different vendors, and actually stands to save a bunch of money and give better quality of life. It was requested to go back to the Policy Committee. I like it just where it is, just fine. So members, but the chair wants to see it, so I urge members to all vote no. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. Motion prevails.
Carlson moves that House File 2629 be recalled from the Committee on Labor, Workplace, and Regulated Industries and re-referred to the Committee on Governmental Operations.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Carlson.
Yes, Madam Speaker, members, this bill deals with labor management relations. I've talked to both chairs, and in fact, they're both co-authors of the bill, and they agree with the change that we move House File 2926 to Government Op.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Representative Carlson yield for question?
He will. Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Carlson, I'm just wondering what path this bill will take, and will it indeed get to the Committee on Labor, Workforce?
Representative Carlson.
Madam Chair, with the short deadline, I'm going to have to talk with the other chairs to see if they need to see it at this point. One of the reasons that we're moving it today was that Government Op, due to an early conversation I had, it actually, in anticipation of the bill, scheduled a Wednesday hearing. What path it takes after that, I'll talk to the relevant chairs and see if they want to see the bill. Ultimately, it ends up in Ways and Means because there will be a small fiscal note attached.
Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Carlson, I know our Republican lead is not on the floor right now, and I noticed that Section 8 deals with, the title is Unfair Labor Practices, and to me it seems like that would be, it does need to go to Government Operations, but to me it would seem that it does need to go to the Committee, Labor and Workforce and Regulated Industries Committee as well. I know that you're going to leave it to the committee, but would you agree that it should go to the Labor Committee? If
Representative Carlson will yield. Representative Carlson.
Madam Chair, as I mentioned, I will ask the committee chairs if they need to see the bill. And if they need to see the bill, obviously it will go to any relevant committee. We have a very short deadline, and that's why I had talked to the Chair of Government Operations earlier to see if we could get it scheduled in anticipation. So we'll cross that bridge, I guess, on Wednesday morning, but in the meantime, we'll talk to the relevant chairs to see if they want to see it.
Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, Representative Carlson, that's troubling to me. I didn't have any part in setting the deadlines. As you know, the Democrats are in charge of the committee deadlines in the House, the Senate, and of course you have the governor's office as well. And I don't think it's a good practice for us to skip relevant committees. And clearly this has to do with unfair labor practices, and it needs to go through the proper committee process. So I would highly hope that we are not just going to start the process of skipping relevant committees just to make a deadline that your side set. So, I guess I'd like your assurances. If I'm not going to get it, perhaps we can talk to your leadership about making sure that the bills get to the place they need to be.
The member from Isanti, Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the Majority Leader yield for a question?
She will. Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. She probably could anticipate that this question was coming. I think we've reached the first point in session now where the minority is being told that bills aren't going to be heard in the committees they're supposed to be heard in because we have such a short committee deadline. Now, we raised this. You gave me your assurance on this House floor that these shorter committee deadlines would not be a problem, and here we're finding out for the first time that they are. So can you address that we'll either extend the deadlines or we'll make sure that this bill makes all of the committee stops that it's supposed to? Can we get your commitment on that today?
Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, members, and Representative Doubt. I want to start by saying we've had 2 quick and effective weeks for this legislative session already, passing propane relief and tax cuts for the middle class in just 2 weeks. We came ready to work. The second year of the biennium is one of those years, right, where there's always a lot of work to be done. And like any organization, we have to set some priorities, and deadlines set priorities. So, as I said to you before, we're going to work swiftly to make sure we get our work done. We're going to make sure that the bills get to the relevant committees. We're going to use the chair's guidance on that. We're going to listen to you as well. And I think that we can get our work done for the people of Minnesota effectively, properly, and swiftly. And that's our intention. Thank you.
Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and members. I think it's important to note that this is exactly what we were worried about. The last time that there was a session that started later than this was 2006, and in that session they actually had more time before the first committee deadline than we do now. We expressed concerns that having this shorter committee deadline would mean that either bills weren't going to get heard or they weren't going to make it to all the committees they were supposed to. And I hope that this isn't the first indication. Now, I will note that the Majority Leader just said that she will make sure that this bill gets to all the stops that it needs to. And if it needs to go to that committee, let's make sure that it goes there. Minnesotans deserve to have these bills heard in those committees. These are the opportunities when Minnesotans get to come to committee and actually give input on these bills. That's really an important step in the process. We don't want to shortcut Minnesotans and not give them the opportunity to come and weigh in on these bills. So, Madam Majority Leader, I will note or ask you to note that we have been most cooperative in making sure that these sessions run smoothly. And I know that minorities in the past have gummed up the system as an effort to make things slow down. We have not done that, and we don't think that that's right, because we want to make sure that Minnesotans get a chance to hear these bills and that Minnesotans have an opportunity to come to committee and testify on these bills. I'm not trying to filibuster, but I'll sit down and listen to what you have to say. Thank you.
Representative Carlson.
Madam Speaker, I was trying to get the Minority Leader to wrap it up because, as I indicated with the questions with Representative Pepin, that I would be talking with the relevant other chair, and I decided, being that the debate went longer than I thought, that I would check with that chair, and he's agreed that he can hear it before the deadline. So when it's before government op, which the reason for this motion was that it had already been time had already been set for it Wednesday. So from government op, I'll be requesting it to be re-referred. So your request is granted. I just wanted to have a chance to talk to the relevant chairs.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails.
House moves that House File 2292 be returned to author.
The member from Stearns, Representative Howe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. after further research, there's a federal law that deals exactly with what I'm dealing with in this bill, so I request it be returned to author. It's unnecessary. Thank you.
There being no objection, so ordered. Announcements. Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the Majority Leader yield for a question?
She will.
Reluctantly, maybe.
Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Majority Leader, just curious, I know the governor had some surgery and has been recovering. I think it's been about a month since anybody's seen him in public, so we're obviously concerned about that and want to make sure that he's on the road to recovery. But more specifically, have we received a request for him, or have we sent a request for him to come and do a State of the State speech to us? I know that normally that has happened already by now, and we haven't heard any notice of that. So I'm wondering if you could address that. And we're hoping he's doing well, and would love to see him here to address the state and talk about some of these important issues.
Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Minority Leader Doubt. I am, with you that I hope that the governor is doing well post-surgery and everyone recovers at their own rate. I did get a chance to see him, and he was up and at 'em and doing the work of the people, which is great. I have not yet sought a request and have not heard yet when he plans to come to give the State of the State address, but I'm sure we will hear soon from the administration about that. And with that, I'll just say thanks for the question.
The Minority Leader, Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And if she'd yield for one more question.
She will. Representative Doubt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last week we received some vague outline of what the governor's supplementary budget would be. Wondering if we'll be receiving that in bill format and what the process is, if we'll see that and see it in committees for hearings here in the House.
The Majority Leader. Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Representative Doubt. We will be getting the supplemental budget in bill form, and the chairs of the relevant committees will make a decision about how to proceed with those bills. And as I see them, I will let you know.
Announcements. Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12 noon, Wednesday, March 12, 2014.
Representative Murphy moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn until noon on Wednesday, March 12, 2014. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. Representative Murphy.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Murphy moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails and the House stands adjourned until 12 noon Wednesday, March 12, 2014.